Hi everyone, this is Heather Smith with Storyville Photography, and today I'm going to be going over this edit of my daughter. I took this at a local beach around 6 p.m. on an overcast day, and that is why her dress is wet. She couldn't resist the water. So this is the finished product, and this is where we got started. Still a pretty lovely straight out of camera in my opinion, but I wanted to tone down the greens and kind of just give it that magical pop that I love. So where we ended and where we will start. So the first thing I like to do is focus on the background. I like to create the tones and the textures and all of that before I focus on my subject. You may be different, but this is just my workflow and how I like to do it. So I'm going to first run the Navy Sapphire. So as you will see, this action comes inverted already. So what I want to do is invert that. I want this to run over the whole image. So to do that, you're going to hit Command I. And it's going to come on really strong, but don't worry, we are going to adjust that. For this image, I'm going to turn off the contrast in the brighten up. The image is already bright to my liking, and we don't need to add much more contrast to that. And for this, I am going to pull the navy base all the way to the top. I'm going to change up the color dazzle, and I don't want it to affect the tone here. So I'm also going to set this to the screen mode, and I'm going to keep it right there. For the color dazzle, I'm going to double click on it, and instead of bringing a bunch of color in, I want to remove some of the background color. So I'm going to take it down to about there. That looks good to me. And I'm going to mask both of these off of the subject. So you want to take a soft black brush at 100% opacity and go ahead and wipe it on off the areas that you don't want. In this case, I'm going to wipe it off of Savannah here. If you're doing this for a client or if you want to print, I would zoom in really close and make sure you get all of it off your subject. But for the tutorial purpose, I'm not going to spend too much time on it. You can also hit the backslash key to see the areas that you have already ran over. It will highlight it up in red, and that can be quite helpful. Okay, so that looks good. Got most of her. Okay. So now I'll show you a trick. Instead of spending time masking off the exact same areas as we did with this layer, we're just going to duplicate the mask. So in order to do that, you want to hold down the Alt key, and as you hold that down, you want to drag the mask to the other layer mask that you want to replace. And then you're going to hit OK. And then you can always go in and refine the mask a little bit. Like as you can tell, there's still blue in her hair and some green around the edges. So if I was to spend more time on this, I would go ahead and take the white brush and add a little bit of blue back in here. The black brush, probably at a lower opacity, and wipe just a little bit of the blue off here. But we're also not done with the background, so we can always come back and fine tune it once we add our other elements to it. So I will show you that is the before the Navy Sapphire and the after. It just has this nice blue undertone, and I just love it so much. So the next thing we're going to do is give it this matte type finish to it. So I like to go into the Dreamy matte, and we're just going to use the basic matte for this. And we're going to select that and hit play. And it's going to come on pretty strong, but I am going to turn it down quite a bit, down to like, just to where I like it. 36 looks good to me. And we are going to mask off the exact same area. So again, hold down the Option key and drag it up to the new layer mask and hit yes. Okay, and so this is the before and the after. I'm going to close that back up. There we go. And the next thing I want to do is add one of my new textures. I wanted to add a little bit more blue and green into the area. So I thought this one would work really nicely. It's the Urban Texture number 17. and you can find this on my website. So I'm going to select it by hitting Command A, and then I am going to copy it by hitting Command C. I'm going to bring it over here and paste it, Command V, and it's going to go right on top. Then I'm going to hit the screen mode and decrease the opacity quite a bit. I just want a little bit of the texture left. So that looks good to me. And guess what? We are going to copy this mask again. So to do that, we're going to select the layer and we're going to hit the mask, and we are going to hold down the Option or Alt key as we paste it onto the new mask. So here we go. That's a very time-saving trick there. Okay, so this is the before the texture and the after. Before and after. The next thing I want to do is add some light rays off to the corner here to add just a little bit more dimension to the image. So I'm going to select the Storyville Light Rays 3. I'm going to copy that and paste it over here. We're going to hit screen mode, and I always like to add a blur so you don't get this like really defined line. So I'm going to go to the Gaussian blur at about 43%, hit OK, and then use the free transform tool, or the shortcut is Command T, to drag it wherever you'd like. And in this case, I just want it coming off from the corner, maybe pull it down a little bit. And that looks good to me right there. I'm going to keep it on 100% opacity because I really like that. Now I kind of want to darken the edges a little bit, but I don't want it to affect this new light ray that I added. So I'm going to click on the layer under it, in this case it's the texture layer, and make sure it's on the black right there. And we're going to select a gradient and do the radial, reverse, make sure that it's over the subject, the light anyway, and then the edges are all dark. I don't think I need to adjust this, but you can make it bigger, smaller, whatever size you want, but that works for, oops, that works for what we're doing right here. And then we're going to hit the soft light, and that looks pretty good to me. So that's the before and after. I might go back later and lighten it up a little bit, but for now this works out fine. So I'm just going to take a soft black brush at 100% opacity and wipe a little bit off of her arm. It kind of changed her skin tone a little bit. Just brighten it up a little. And that looks good. We'll leave it right there. And now that we got the background pretty much how I want it, we might make slight adjustments down the line. I want to work on the subject now. So the first thing I want to do is get rid of a little bit of her dark circles and maybe clean up her arm a little bit. So to do that, I am going to duplicate the background layer by hitting Command J, or you can drag it down to the new layer box and it'll create a new layer that way as well. So to clean up her eyes, I'm going to grab the patch tool and I'm going to zoom in and just select the area that I want to brighten up a little bit. The patch tool is really great because it's going to sample the surrounding skin and color and kind of blend it nicely for us. And then over here, and just sample from right under. And that already made a difference. Now I want to go down to her arm. There's just this little area. It looks like she had stickers or something, or an ink pen. Earlier she told me that she was decorating and she came down covered in these rhinestones, and it was so funny. I didn't realize she was decorating herself, but I told her she could keep some of those on for the pictures because it just melted my heart. Anyway, so now that we took care of a little bit of the imperfections, I want to brighten her up a little bit. So I am going to go into the Storyville retouch. We'll go ahead and pull it up here so that it runs on top. And I am going to, where's it at? Brighten Skin and Eyes. hit play on that. And we're going to open this up, select a soft white brush, add 100% opacity, and I'm going to brush it over her skin. It's going to come on really strong, but I like to see where I'm painting, and then we will dial it back after. Hit especially the highlighted areas. A little bit in her hair. It's okay to run over her shirt as well. And then I'm going to dial that way back. I like to start from 0 and just kind of work my way up and see where it looks good. And that looks okay for now. We might go back and increase it later, but I also am going to use the dodge and burn action, so I don't want to brighten it up too much right now. The next I want to add a little bit of color into your cheeks. Oh, there we go. So that's the before and after. Okay, so going to add a little bit of color. We're going to run the Storyville Rosy Cheeks and Lips. Select that and hit play. And then for here, I'm going to use the Vibrant Coral, soft white brush, 100% opacity. And again, it's going to come on really strong, but we will dial that back. And her lips look okay to me, so I think we'll leave those alone. And that around there looks good. So very subtle, but adds a little bit of a pop to her cheeks. So there we go. And this is looking pretty good to me, but I think overall I want to brighten up her skin and the background just a little bit, add a little bit of color into it. So I'm going to grab a hue and saturation layer adjustment, and we're going to increase that just where we see, just to where I like it. So that looks pretty nice. Just adds a little bit more orangey tones into her skin and a little bit more color to the background. So I think the last thing I want to do is dodge and burn just a little bit. I do have an action for this, but I'll show you a really quick and lazy way. If you're going to do this for a client or print, I recommend use the action and do hit all the spots, spend some time on it, because it can make such a huge improvement on your image. But for this, I'm just going to grab a curves adjustment layer and pull down on the midtones ever so slightly. And then I want to brush that off the light rays, obviously. And I'm going to hit some of her highlights, like around her nose, her eyes, cheeks, just wherever the sun's hitting. A little bit on her collarbone. And this is the quick and lazy way to dodge and burn an image. And that's before and after. Before and after. Okay, guys, maybe I don't want that over here either. Take some more of that off. Okay. And I think we're done, guys. Let me close this all together so you can see where we started and where we finished. So this is the finished product, and this is the before. After and before. Thanks for watching, guys. You can find all of my products that I used today at StoryvillePhotography.com. Have a great day. Bye.